design for the territory and the environment at the University of Catania, and Fulbright visiting fellow at the University of Santa Barbara. She has worked as a researcher in environmental and spatial justice in Italy, California, and Sweden. And she's also a co-founder of Trame di Quartiere, you know, because we did an interesting video about her experience in a social enterprise. It is a community cooperative in particular based in Catania, in Sicily, and aimed to promote and facilitate services and research practice for urban transformation based on the values of inclusivity and the conception of diversity as a resource. Elisa is also a postdoc researcher at the Urban Just Transition Cluster at the University of Toronto Scarborough in Canada. And this is the reason why we have her today, because she's the co-leader of a listening project, a community-based research initiative that aims to work with community partners to understand and envision equitable transitions. And this is the first time of presentation of the first phase results of this project. So we are honored for having her today, and we are very glad to listen her. So, Lizzie, for friends, please, thank you.
Thank you, Mirko. Thank you to everybody for having me. I'm very delighted to be here with you, and great presentation, really. Thank you so much. And I'm very looking forward to sharing with you the first results from the listening project. And let me share with you the screen. So I will have a PowerPoint, kind of helping me and supporting me while I'm presenting. Perhaps you may tell me if you give me confirmation if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes, we see it. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. So thank you so much. And today we will talk about how community listening can help to move toward urban just transitions. And in particular, the contents of the day will be, as you can see, with several subtopics. First, I intend to provide an overview of the theme of just urban transition, what is actually. And then I will introduce our cluster research, where I work in Canada here at the University of Toronto, the Urban Just Transitions cluster. And the Urban Just Transitions cluster is carrying on several projects. One of the main projects is the listening project, which I will talk about. And I will more precisely focus on one of our listening sessions, the one with the Malvern Farmers Market. And finally, I intend to provide some final reflections in light of the listening project we had with the Malvern Farmers Market. So let's start, but feel free to jump in, interrupt me anytime for any questions. I'm very happy, to provide any clarifications. So let's start. Let's start with the topic itself. Why just urban transitions? Transitions toward what? So nowadays we talk a lot about urban just transitions because it is worldwide acknowledged that we are in the middle of the climate change and global warming era. And actually, we can see many of the effects coming from the climate change. Here are some of the effects: the rising of sea level, economic losses, the rising of temperature, forest fires. Here in Canada, we had crazy wildfire during the summer, for instance, storms, extinction of animals, and so on. All of those are very, dramatic effects, as you can see from this phase. And actually they jeopardize the human and more the human inhabitants of our Earth. So how should we face such climate change related challenges? Well, scientists, scholars, politicians, and activists, since already several years, have started to talk about the importance of moving toward a low or zero carbon society that does not emit large quantities of carbon dioxide and other anthropogenic greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And this is the transition we are talking about toward a low or zero carbon future. This kind of future, of course, implies a large scale reorganization in the way societies and produce and use energy. So, in order to face this transition, this challenge for the future, there have been several techno driven solutions for climate change that have been widely explored. Nevertheless, the democratic dynamics underpinning the ecological transitions are still less scrutinized. Is exactly the democratic dynamics underpinning the ecological transition that is the still, let's say, our open question, and it is actually these aspects, these democratic dynamics underpinning the ecological transition, that is the focus of our topic today, and what also as a cluster we are questioning too. So that is what's in order to introduce a bit why we talk about just urban transitions. Let's say that also from an academic debate perspective, this topic has been widely discussed. And here I want to provide you a very brief introduction about that, an overview about that. Let's say that there are three words, just urban and transitions. And for each of these words, there is a layered meaning. Let's start a bit with just. So the word just relates to the social justice issue. And how you can see here, we have also a circle for each of these word. So the word just is connected with the social justice issue. In other words, the already existing presence of inequalities embedded into our society. And several studies show how the social and environmental issues are thickly intertwined with each other, and they frame environmental inequalities as a form of social inequalities. So the interplay between social and environmental justice is the very core of the environmental justice movement and studies. That yeah, so these environmental justice movement and studies underline how there are an unfair, unequal distributions of burdens and benefits connected with climate change. Nevertheless, a lacking point of the environmental justice framework is that has been used mainly as a tool for raising awareness about this unfair distribution and for providing also parameters, but not a roadmap for the future. So let's say that the transformative gap, this vision for the future, that is a gap, let's say gap, something that is less explored within the environmental justice framework, is the starting point for the transition strategies and the transition theories. And that's we have the second word, transitions, and also the another circle, how you can see here on the right side. So the transition theory seeks to understand how and when systems undergo a notable change from one state to another, with an emphasis on change management or steering. And also, they seek to uncover the origins, patterns, and mechanisms that mobilize these transitions. And finally, they focus on the trajectory of change. Nevertheless, the transition theories, let's say that lack of attention toward issues of justice and power, or they may lack most of the time, and often they focus on macro space and time scale. So there is not always enough attention to the local dynamics. So that is what helps us to understand why we use the word urban. So the word urban, the last circle here on the top, is because the cities have been historically and continue actually to be sites of social injustices and disparities. Has many debate in urban studies say, the debate about the just city or the right to the city. And this is also why in dealing with social inequalities within cities, urban planners have experimented with more engaged form of planning. such as radical planning, advocacy planning, collaborative planning, all more engaged planning approach that give greater attention to the actors of knowledge production within the cities. So with more attention in involving the people living inside the cities for facing these social inequalities within the cities. So we understood that we have these three critical, crucial elements that made the definition of just urban transition. Altogether, they create, let's say, they create a new agenda that is an agenda that is based on, at least we can say, two key elements. One element is the justice principle of process, distribution, and recognition, in which the justice is intended as an essential and integral part of systemic change. So any change I want to have in the future must be based on the concept of justice. And the other side, another key element is the focus on change processes, alternative future, and political structural tension in the pursuit of just transition, with an emphasis on the co-production knowledge with urban communities and networks. In short, let's say that the just urban transitions in academic debate as agenda is considered as the fusion of climate action and justice concern at urban scale. So that is, let's say, the general theoretical framework that underpin our work, my work inside the cluster, and our more theoretical research questions. What is still less explored, less understood, and that is still at the center of debate is how actually to achieve practically these just urban transitions that we've been so much theorized so far. To this end, our cluster, let's say, try to investigate this practical application of just urban transitions, and that is one of our core element, core research questions. So here is our cluster. You can see is made of some wonderful scholars. There are a few others, and is a research cluster as Mirko was anticipating at the beginning, mentioning at the beginning, at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, in Canada. And we are working together with community partners toward equity and climate action. Our main goal is to further understand how urban just transitions are unfolding and how accelerating the transition to zero carbon economy, society, and energy system without exacerbating existing inequalities, or better, trying to reduce these inequalities, I would emphasize. And so, how to do this? Which approaches? Which methods to use? This is why one of the key characteristics of our cluster is exactly the approach we use. We start with recognizing that community led efforts in energy, social, and environmental transitions are best equipped to serve place based needs. For these reasons, we are committed to working with community partners toward equity and climate action, while our academic area of expertise can inform specific action points. And for this reason, we apply a community engaged scholarship approach, which is inspired by the paradigm of participatory action research. The participatory action research is an approach to the way you do research in a way that intentionally try to impact the context with emancipatory purposes, and also stemming from the idea that it is possible to improve reality while you are knowing the reality. Of course, this kind of approach aims to overcome the classic, if you want, mainstream traditional sharp separation between the academic world and the world of practice, the real world, and because of that, it center on relationship building and resourcing not academic partners. So this kind of approach, as a consequence, will be against any type of extractive research. And instead, I would say that keywords of a participatory accurate research are these other words I'm put here. Words like collaborative, relationship, sharing, reciprocity, co-deciding together with the local partners, humility, respects, relationality, co-producing together knowledge, co-sharing knowledge. So all these are keywords of what a participatory action research approach would look like. And because of that, also how you can see in this picture I put on the top, there is also a circular approach to the research. So you most of the time work together with local partners, but you also co-analyze the results together with your local partners, identify together with your local partners how to adapt the project for future goals. So there is also this let's say continuous learning approach. And because of that, also from a methods perspective, the tools we use will be tools that seek to listen deeply our local partners, the local communities we are working with. And some of the tools, but those are just some of them, and I put here, can be community mapping, walks, community walks, interviews, art-based activities, walk interview. And we are also working right now in putting together some of these methods in a toolkit. That's why I put a picture on the right side, because with the idea also to provide a toolkit that can be an important resource also for our community partners. So this is why the listening part, the listening the community is very crucial in order to work together with local partners and work together toward the identification of a better future, toward these just urban transitions. It's not by chance that one of our main projects is called Listening Project. That is already started, and it's a project that aims to listen a wide range of communities with the goal to understand how climate action intersects with people's everyday concerns and hope, but also with the goal to comprehend how to engage more people in projects aiming at supporting and generating urban just transitions at local level, but also to generate in this way occasion of mutual learning and empowerment for climate action, and to explore how climate action can address at the same time some equity priorities that are present in our cities. Of course, the listening project is based on the idea that the community-led effort can be fundamental to deliver the promises of a just post-carbon world. So that we really underline how much the community-led effort can be so crucial for our research, for our work, for also the just urban transitions more in general. So key research questions of the listening project are the following, such as how do community across Scarborough envision a good life in a net zero of Toronto? How can climate action also address equity priorities? How can we turn this vision into action? How you can see there is written Scarborough, that is also the name of our university, University of Toronto Scarborough. But what is Scarborough? So Scarborough, for people who are not familiar with, is a eastern district of Toronto. So it's a district you can see here, put on the map on the right. It's a district that is crucial, is important for the geography of the city, because since the Second World War has been a popular destination for new immigrants in Canada. And that is why it's one of the most diverse and multicultural area of Toronto, being home to various religious groups and places of worship. And also it hosts the campus of the University of Toronto, and more in general, is considered a vibrant urban community with several organizations, but at the same time also a community with many struggles connected both with crime, but also with a process of urbanization that brought, for instance, the construction of a lot of new condominiums that have been built in the last decades, and also with let's say, more organization of the space that is based on urban sprawl. So you need a lot to move with car, and the public transportation are not always so efficient. So there are many, let's say, issues and values that are connected with Scarborough, and these are very crucial neighborhood in Toronto to look at and to work in. So it is actually in Scarborough that we started to carry on the listening project with different phases I'm sharing here. So we have established the local partners, we engage them, start to talk with them, and to envision how to organize the listening project. And then during the summer, between July and October, we actually carried on these listening sessions with several partners, and more precisely, we have carried on 4 listening sessions. Our local partner, one of them is Roots to Bloom, which is a collective of community artists that seek to build vital connection between nature and community in Scarborough. And then there is another that is Scarbright, which is another collective we are working with, is a base artist collective having the goal to brighten the street of Scarborough through co-creating visual works with art. And then there is United Way, that is another partner, is a no-profit that fights local poverty by supporting the people impacted by poverty in the neighborhood. So those are the 3 of the 4 local partners we have been working with and carrying on a listening project. But I actually will focus to the last on I will focus on the last one. The Malvern Family Resource Center is one of the listening sessions we have carried out during the summer, and the Malvern Family Resource Center is really a great multi-social service agency in Scarborough. Especially is based in an area of Scarborough which is called Malvern. That's why the name Malvern. And this group provide several projects, several programs and services for the community. And they give special attention to food justice program. One of the food justice program is the Malvern Urban Farm, which is a farm supporting around 15 farmers and their family with the goal of creating opportunities for residents to generate supplemental income, but also with the idea to increase the availability of fresh food, culturally appropriated food in one of the neighborhood in Toronto with the highest rate of food insecurity. So it is actually the Malvern Urban Farm that has been our starting point, because one of the main activity of the Malvern Urban Farm is to have during the summer a farmers market. So the same farmers who produce food within the farm are the same farmers who sell this food during the farmers market. So it's a weekly farmers market that let's say during which the farmers sell their own products that are organic products, kilometer zero products. And then is exactly within the market that we have carried out our listening sessions. How you can see here, I provided the activities we've done throughout all the summer. It has been more or less 3 hours per week during 9 weeks between August and October. And in the program in the right, in this picture, you can see some boxes that are colored, because those 3 boxes were the days when we have carried out the very workshop, some very, let's say, community workshop. I will talk more about that in a second. So we've done thousands of activities with the idea to work together with both the farmers and the communities and customers coming over. And we have done so in several ways, both having a stand inside the farmers market and providing a series of interactive activities, but also providing this intensive community-based workshop. So let's see a bit what we have done during the farmers market. Let's say that one of the first activity has been an introduction and outreach activity. During this phase, we mainly introduce ourselves, pass by stand to stand, providing information about our project, also giving flyers. But at the same time, we were also providing some poster, interactive poster, drop-by activities with questions related to the demographics of the people, but also related to the reasons why people come in this market. And we started also to understand, to ask some question about the perspective people have on the neighborhood. The idea of this first phase was to understand the main characteristics of the customer and people hanging out at the market, as well as to collect a few quantitative data about them. Pretty soon we start also to add additional activities with the idea to unearth the sense of place, the feeling of attachment people have with their own neighborhood. So we were asking some questions you can see from the picture. What do you think about your neighborhood, for instance? Which are your ideas, your opinion, your emotions connected with the neighborhood? Why you live here? And also your thoughts, or how you perceive the neighborhood. So we ask, for instance, to identify how the people perceive what they perceive is the border of the neighborhood, to identify on a map. Why we have done so? The main purposes of these kind of questions are to unveil the relationships between residents and their neighborhood, so also in a way that we could understand which are the main elements of community identity and feeling of belonging, and also to let emerge in this way what elements bind people to their neighborhood. uh, by doing so, we also facilitated residents storytelling about what living in this neighborhood look like, and it is for them. So here are some picture again of our activities. The post-its are post-its coming from the people, both farmers and customers in the farmers market. And also we try to work more, try to understand which links are there between the past, the present, and the hope and fears for the future. So with the idea to trace back the history of the neighborhood in people's memory, but with this future vision again. So we ask to share memories with us. We ask which changes people have seen, how these changes have impacted them. So with the idea to trace back the history, but starting from the perspective of people. And then we focus more and more on shedding light and reflecting on the strengths and issues of the neighborhood. This with the idea to understand what the residents think about their neighborhood, what aspects they like and would like to improve, which are the critical elements that can be converted into leverage points for future projects. And then this topic of the strengths and the issue, we try to intersect it also with climate change. That has been very interesting, as well as more challenging to think to climate change in daily life term. But actually we found out some interesting we got some interesting answers. And here you can see some of the activities we ask. How do you think the climate change impact your neighborhood, your daily life? Please to map it. And we got some answers such as people connecting the price, the high price of the housing with the fact that many people need to move out from the city center. Because of that, they use a lot of car, for instance, and that's produce, of course, release a lot of emissions. Or other people also doing some other interesting connection. For instance, the fact that the climate change impact everyone, but impact more some people instead of other people, because it depends a lot where you live, but depends a lot also on your age, on your socioeconomic possibilities. Perhaps will impact more old people or low income people. So we had very interesting conversation around that. And then we move toward the connection between climate change and the food production and consumption. That's, of course, was very emblematic. We were inside a local farmers market with organic food, so it was was very interesting to see how some people were underlining, for instance, how the climate change was impacting the production itself of vegetables because of the weather condition were, for instance, very rainy this summer in Canada. Because of that, many plants just did not grow up properly. Or, for instance, some other people were identifying, telling us how organic food is sometimes too expensive, and so not everyone can afford fresh and organic products. So, connecting actually what do you eat to, with the condition, your social economic condition. So, interesting links that we have also formalized. Let's say we integrated these forms of knowledge coming from the conversation with the people, and we integrate with more official scientific knowledge. We create this flyer where you can see in the green box the interview, some excerpt, some part of the interviews we had with people, and then this flyer discuss and talk about how does climate change impact food production, and how is eating local food a climate action. So that's to say some of the activities we have done. But here we go to to the workshop I was mentioning before. So the workshop have been intensive community activities for a couple hours. We have done two of them. The first one is a community mapping workshop. During this community mapping workshop, we ask the participants to identify on a map some emblematic places of their neighborhood according to these questions. So we ask them to identify what they think are the strengths and assets of the neighborhood, but also what they dislike, what they used to like but is not there anymore. And then we ask them to connect these the previous answer with climate change and climate impact. In this way, we wanted to create a picture of what it's like to live in Scarborough according to the participant, and how also these intersect with climate change. So that is some of the picture. We also ask people to map themselves. So we map the mappers with the idea also to have the source of knowledge to understand, from where they were from. And these are some of the picture of the activities, people discussing around this table with the maps. For each color, each question was a color. The participants were building also their legend, connecting the legend with some post-it or number on the maps. So now we are in the process of formalizing, let's say digitalizing and formalizing the contents of the community mapping workshop, because we got several maps during the workshop. There were several tables, and now we are putting all together the answer. And you can see that we have for different colors. So the orange one is for the strength, the dislike is purple, and so on. The idea is to formalize this knowledge, but with the goal to make it available and to spread it perhaps through some website. And this is the other two maps. One is the green one is what people used to like but is no longer there, and another one is the climate change and impact. So here are some pictures of this community mapping workshop, and also some, let's say, open questions, some ideas that came out during the workshop. For instance, what impact does the mapping have on mapper themselves? Can mapping activity create community? How the generated community maps can be useful for the community for follow-up projects? How can this map become an incremental work? So those are questions we are working about that. We are reflecting on that, but I want to share with you in case you want to know, ask something or share some ideas. So we also put together, systematize what we heard from the people. You can see here in this chart, and this chart, for instance, identifying the strengths, the issue, the climate change, daily life, the desired changes according to what people told us, has been the starting point of the second workshop that we called the Future Scenario Workshop. That was a call for imaginative urban exploration. So we pretended in this workshop to be in 2043, so 20 years later than now, and we asked participants this time to connect the strengths, priorities, and climate change problems they identified previously with their capability to envision and multiply the future. So we asked them to think the future of Scarborough in 20 years. And more precisely, the workshop was organized in two moments. The first moment we call the free imagination moment. So the participant could think about the future in a free way, think about their desirable future. But while the second phase, we ask them to ground that idea, to reason, to think about how to get there more practically, which actors to involve, which governance system, which laws or policy changes, and so on. So that was the second and last workshop we have done with participants. Here is a picture of the moments all together, and then finally all these activities, all these moments together have been shared and further discussed during the final event. We call them a fiesta, a Malvern Farmers Market Fiesta, a community celebration of the summer activities, and a moment to further share what we actually have discussed. As a matter of fact, from a methodological perspective, throughout all the process, we tried to give emphasis on community feedback as much as possible, with the idea to create a circular and community-based peer review process of the produced knowledge. So each time we were, identifying an issue, for example, identifying some strengths, then the next session we would ask to other people what do they think about these identified elements. So with this kind of peer review process that was continuous, we tried to do in a way that was continuous, and with the idea also to generate also further conversation around what we heard. And one of the, let's say, example of this is the Scarborough community-based fortune cookies. What we've done is to distribute the last day of the farmers market during the fiesta, the final event. I was talking about some cookies, the fortune cookies, but inside, instead of general sentences, there were sentences coming from the conversations we had with people during the previous activities. So that was very funny, interesting, because people were commenting on the fortunes inside the cookies. And then we also experiment with several types of methods, engaging methods. For instance, we use an itinerant offer price-based conversation. So we were outreaching people, moving within the farmers market, asking people to pick questions and discuss that question with us if they wanted. And then we gave them a prize. That was a way to directly ask some questions, as well as we provide an art corner where we were not asking any questions, but we were providing a space to be reflective, to relax. And then I'm almost at the end of the presentation. Now we finished the listening session. We are now in the phase during which we are elaborating what we have done during the summer, and we are also discussing follow-up activities to do soon. And so we are in this phase of our project, and I would like to discuss to present some very final reflections in the light of the listening session we had with the Malvern Farmers Market, and see how the community listen can actually help to move toward urban just transitions. So some highlights, I think, is the community listen, how you've seen, can create a boundary space where researchers meet, engage, discuss, and work together with local communities, but also it promote the sharing, integration, and co-production of different and plural forms of knowledge. Can also create a space for provocative questions to stimulate reflection on climate change, daily life, and climate action, and by doing so can encourage mutual learning and knowledge enrichment. And also it fosters the development of new relationship both among the participants and between the researchers and the community. And finally, it nourished stronger bonds with the neighborhood and its place. So, from this perspective, those are our highlights that really tell us how listening can facilitate the understanding of the democratic dynamics underpinning the ecological transitions. It can create spaces of reflection on the intersections between climate action and social environmental justice that can represent the harbinger of future actions. Nevertheless, here there are some very final notes and criticalities we maybe want to underline too, to be fair. So some notes from the field is that we understood how there is a desire to be listened to and to be engaged by most of the community member. And also there is a difficulty sometimes by people to talk easily about climate change as a daily issue. And also this kind of work is a very relational work, so researchers are on the front line with their own body, their personality, engaging with people. And this is connected a bit with the criticalities. It's a very intensive activity, so many hours, many days, many weeks, and there is a huge amount of qualitative data to be analyzed and systematized. Also, there are long-term reciprocity expectations that that should be addressed with the engaged people. So those are the final reflections of this project and of the community listen activity toward urban just transitions. And here are the references in case you want to look at them. That is the great working team I've been working during the summer. And thank you so much. I think it took a few minutes more, but I finished my presentation, and I'm very happy to answer any questions here or later. I also provided the website of our cluster research in case you want to look at what the Just Urban Transitions cluster is doing, and as well as my email. Thank you very much.
Good, super. Thank you very much, Elisa, for this interesting talk. Actually, as Marco highlighted, that this is not the first time to meet. We had like collaboration before. I think, yeah, collaboration before since we like recorded the success story. This is a couple of months ago or so. But to be fair with you, when I heard the success story or get the success story, I saw that you are working just for society, not with academic background. But after your talk today, actually, we are doing almost similar things. So we here at the Arctic Sustainability Lab in Tromsø, we are creating scenario for future food production and how the community will be in the future related to the climate change and things like this. So I see this presentation today not just in terms to involve community, but like scientific presentation that very useful, at least for me. And I hope that also useful for other. So I have already some questions, and I would like to leave just the floor for the other to ask. I can see some forget. Okay. So if there is any other questions from or new question from the audience, or okay, maybe I can drop one for me. Actually, I have a very long list here, but I will try to make short. How you succeeded to get engaged with such community? Because we know it's a bit difficult to get people in. There is a paper that published a couple of months ago that say in order to reach to 10 persons, you need to reach to more than 100 person just to get this 10%. So how you succeed to build this trust between you as a research team and the community?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the also the comments. I'm very happy to follow up in case if you're working on similar things much more than happy to have
Yes.
additional moments of discussion. Well, about how you succeed. So I would say, let me answer this in a maybe a bit articulate way. But so first of all, I think the way to involve people in this case has been through passing through an organization. So the Malvern Farmer, the Malvern Resource Center, Family Resource Center, is an organization that is in the community since 30 or 40 years. So our local partners are this organization, is this organization. Then through this organization was an entry point to get in contact also with people and communities that were coming over in the farmers market and that were, somehow collaborate or close to the organization. So just to say that we were not just starting suddenly an activity in the neighborhood, but we followed a series of preliminary steps with this organization that is also involved in the steering committee of the listening project. So this organization also has a role in the governance of the project. They suggest us how to organize some stuff, give us feedback. We co-work together, sometimes also co-design some part of the project. For that's the way we involved. Then I think there is this theory of the circles. So you start with a little circles. In this case, has been this community organization, and then the people working around or passing by this farmers market. But then through the farmers market, for instance, we got in contact with other organizations, other key people, key persons that could be involved for later, right? So with the idea that you start with this circle, but then you actually expand the other organization, the other involvement, the people involved. So to understand if we succeed or not, so we did not activate a very systematized way to evaluate the process during the process itself. But I would say that one of the way you can see if you are succeeding is really to see if these spaces of conversation, spaces with questions and activities trigger some reflections, ideas, or perhaps also some anger, sometimes some concerns for the future in the people. So we actually recorded that. We recorded that people were involved, but also were thinking about, were reflecting about, were discussing with us. So that was a way to see that the format and activities, despite you can always improve them, we're working, we're effective in what we want to create. Then I believe it's very good suggestion perhaps to think since the beginning a very complete evaluation program system, so to evaluate both from a qualitative and quantitative way, in a systematized way the process.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is one question in the chat, and I still have two questions here. So one question in the chat: are there any other community enablers?
When you say enablers, you mean like people who enable the involvement of other people, or just to understand what you mean as enablers, which is a nice word, but just to be sure.
Attivatori di comunità.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. So people who are able to activate other people. So this is a nice question. I think there is actually a distinction between a community that provide services, a community organization that just provides services, a community organization that activate community is what perhaps in the North American culture they often call community organizers, people who organize the community around a request, around an issue. So it's a good point because our community partner is mainly a service provider, despite they do a lot of social and environmental justice related programs, but they provide services mainly. They don't do a political work of community organization, of activation of community. While we were doing the activities during the summer there, we did meet some organizations or some people who were involved in some community organizer, like community organization that activate the community around a topic. For instance, while we were there, there is now a very let's say upcoming issue in this neighborhood, that is the closure of a shopping mall. So they're closing a very big shopping mall, but the people do not want to close it. So these community organizers are organizing around this, also in a political way. When I mean political, I mean also asking for policy change, asking for politicians to be involved, or creating a demonstration, stuff like that. So if I did I answer your question? So yeah, we were thinking, for instance, to collaborate with them in the future. So the idea is like, again, with the circle strategy, you start with a circle, but then perhaps the upcoming project will be involving the previous partner, but also other partners. So you expand the network of people you're working with in that neighborhood.
I think this is a good strategy, Lisa, that you didn't engage direct with the people, but you are engaged with partners. So you contact one person in an organization, and they activate their network. I think this approach, because we are struggling here in Tromsø to engage people around us, and I think this is a very excellent approach. I think so.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
especially if you're not from the neighborhood. Perhaps
exactly.
if you are like a researcher, but you also live there, can be easier.
Exactly,
but if
yes.
you are not, it's my
You
case.
need
Let me
to
usually,
build
I'm
this
from Italy
trust.
originally. Then to start, but to agree on some specific, so you agree with a community partner on some basic stuff, but you have like, you share the goals, or you share also perhaps the design of the activities, what they think, and so on. And then is a entry point, which sounds a bit weird, but what I mean is like an entry point for following activities. So you start from that, but I agree with you, then you step by step perhaps engage other people.
Maybe in term, like a short comment on what you're saying now, in term of preparation for such a collaboration or such event, how many weeks, how many months in order to communicate with such organization before launching the event?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's from a quantitative perspective. I'm not sure how to answer, because I think it's a matter at least a few months, but it depends a lot on the project and how much the organization is ready to commit in a research path together. But generally speaking, I would say that always you need some preliminary activities or workshop or meetings. So in our case, for instance, the listening project start around January or December of, so 1 year ago, almost 1 year ago. And then we used our first 3-4 months between January and April to really start to engage like actors, understand what they need, also what they expect, what we expect, try to be honest also in which are our goals. And then we also organize a world cafe and a symposium, like an activity with the specific focus to identify the strategy for the listening project, for the following up activities. Then we actually start to design the activities around May, June. And then we start actually in
7 months,
July.
7-8 months.
Yes, I would say again, I think there is not a specific recipe. Let's say that as a general indication can be useful, but in some cases perhaps just a few months are enough. In other cases, perhaps you may need more months.
Longer, if complicated process or complicated project, yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
But thank you for questions.
Yeah. Maybe I can leave the floor again for other. If not, I have to question more. So if anyone in the room would like to ask, maybe you can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay. If not, maybe I can shoot my next question about how you make sure that you will not losing the momentum with the community. Like, you did the event today, and after a month, you will make another event, a follow-up. How you make sure that, you will get the people again in the second event?
Well, thank you for this question. I think those are like, I always joke in telling that since I started to do research, I know I don't get never any answer. I just get more questions. For
Yeah.
me, it's a loop of questions. That is my life. But jokes apart, so just to say, I don't think I have a real answer, but we can reflect together on that.
Mhm.
So I think that for the momentum, we build time by time was a weekly meeting for this specific listening project. We did carry out we did other listening project with slightly different organizations, so with appointment once per month, so different type of appointments. Our listening project uh, has been very intense, so once per week, 3 hours, the researchers in the farmers market talking with a lot of people and so on. And because of that was very relational, as I was telling, but in being relational, we were also creating, let's say, expectation. We were engaging people, telling, today we're doing this activity, but next time there will be the workshop, the next time there will be these other activities. You create a kind of connection between all the appointments, so some people, not all, but some people were expecting something else the next
Mm.
time. And then in this way you do not only you don't lose the momentum, but somehow you increase it. You create this kind of this path together. You let the people be involved in all the process somehow. It's also true that in a few cases can happen that this you can like have a moment in which the momentum is decreased. For instance, our first workshop was much more participated, so we got more people. The second workshop, for some reasons we actually don't know exactly, we got less people, despite still was a very good amount of people for working, but less than the first. And we were kind of wondering why, because maybe was the weather was worse, or was almost October, so people get a bit more fall vibes, whatever. So you can have this kind of tricky part. It's part of the process. But I think that what is more important in all this is to keep the momentum in a way that you keep clear the path to the people you have involved. You let people understand that there is a process, that there are more things that are happening. There will be a final event, that we will share back some stuff, so that this somehow you are the one creating the condition for
Mm.
having a momentum. But then, of course, you cannot plan everything. So I guess there are some unexpected events also to take into consideration that can impact, can have some effects. But I will think more about that, though. It's a very nice input.
Yep. Yep. So you are keeping your connection with the community using emails and or Facebook or things like this, right?
So
Like
with
long
the
long
community
term long term
organization,
relation.
oh yeah, so we did get some. You mean with the community, with the community organizers?
No, the community, not the
Okay.
organizer. Yeah.
So the community, we did ask people to sign up for the workshops, and also they could like give us their contacts. So we did collect a series of contacts, and so we have emails, also a few numbers. So, for instance, once we finish, now we are still working on the reports. We are still working on finalizing the digitalization of the maps, as I was sharing. But once we have these materials ready, we were thinking to share back with the
Okay.
participants.
Okay. I like very much this approach, Lisa, because simply you are not using. Actually, it was a discussion a month ago with the team here that some researcher who are using the community, and I don't think this is good, but you are sharing with them the knowledge and involve them in the research, and this is make difference, I
Yeah,
think, from
that
my
is the
point of
key
view.
element. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some parts of the work we use for the research, for the very research,
Yeah.
publish a scientific article. The point is to be honest on that. Like since the beginning, our local partners, especially, they knew we are a research lab. So
Mm.
we were partly doing this work also for scientific purposes,
Of
but
course.
also all the contents. The idea was since the beginning, we want to share back this co-produced knowledge in a way that can be then perhaps useful for other organizations or for the people.
Yeah. Maybe I can just reflect this to all of our audience. In Clouders, I actually, we have something called a knowledge hub. So as you see, this project that hosts this series of event is Inspiring the Mind. And this is part of a bigger initiative called the Clouders Eye. And in the Clouders Eye, we have sort of a knowledge hub, online knowledge hub, where we publish all the finding, not the scientific publication, which is complicated things, but a simple way of communicate results, or simple form of the results to share it back to community, and it's open access. So we are
Oh,
believing
that's,
in this. Yes.
this would
Yep.
be nice to have also. If you want to drop in the chat, share
Yeah,
them
of
with me.
course.
I
Of course.
would
Yeah.
love to
Yeah.
know more about it.
Yep. So maybe I can just drop here Clouders Eye. .com. This is the main website, and underneath this website you will find the Inspiring the Mind website, the conference website, several things. Yep. I think this most of the points that I have here, but maybe again asking our people here, anyone would like to add any questions? Or
I see in the chat some greetings. Okay,
yeah, it's
thank you
greeting. Yes.
for that.
Yeah. So I really would like to thank you very much, Lisa, for this very interesting talk. It's really engaged, and it at least show us here at Rome so that we are on the right way. No, we are going somehow in the right way, and I do hope that this will be like, yeah, there is. Yeah, there is someone who is just came late, and he enjoyed the last part of discussion. Thank you very much. And I hope that we will keep in contact, since we now know that we are doing almost similar research somehow. So maybe we can find like not just research for community, but we can like find a way for research collaboration. Good,
This
thank
would
you.
be great. And thank you for organizing this, for carrying on this project, Inspiring Minds. I think it's beautiful. Inspiring Minds, inspiring the hearts also, and I really enjoy to share the results, the first results of the project, and more than happy to follow up if people want to reach out to me from the public, and also to talk more with you in the future,
Of course.
collaborate. That would be great.
Of
Thank you very
course,
much.
yes. Especially you are doing work in Canada, which is Arctic nation, and this is
Yes,
for us. It's important as well.
the weather,
Those are similar
unify
somehow.
us
Yes, exactly,
more
exactly.
than. I'm sure that more than the weather and the
Of course,
community living here. But
yes,
yeah, definitely. And I work in Canada. I have connection with Europe because I am still working sometimes with few things in Italy, and would love to follow up.
of
Definitely,
course.
let's be in contact.
Yeah. So I would like to thank all of you, and of course the big thank to Davida and Mirko for the organization, because actually I just joined the last part here in the discussion, since Mirko has another meeting, but all the work actually done by Davida and Solco people and Mirko as well. So thanks a lot, and see you. I think we will have a break for this session, since we are coming now toward the Christmas. So I wish all of you the Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I assume that we'll meet early in January in one of our events. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you again, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too.
Yep.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.